You know, my initial reaction was, wow, like this is an award that I had no idea I would be receiving, and it was just such an honor to be given the Tad Lucas Award, you know, from such a woman that was so courageous in the things that she did. Just what an honor.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on a ranch in Abilene, Texas. My mom and dad both rodeoed. My dad was a roper, my mom was a barrel racer, and had an older brother that was a roper or is a roper, and I just followed in their footsteps. You know, from the time I was young, we, every day that we were bringing cattle in or, working cattle, I had a rope in my hand and wanted to rope. My mom really wanted me to run barrels, and I did for a little while, but roping was my passion, and just, ranching and rodeoing is all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would say the competitive fire started going as soon as I was doing it, because my brother was 3 years older than I was, and I wanted to beat him at anything that he did, and we just competed against each other and drove each other to be our best from a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first rodeo I ever entered as a roper, I think I was 6 years old. Oh man, I was hooked from day one. I mean, growing up on a ranch and having, not knowing any different. I mean, that was just our way of life, and having horses and animals, and you just being able to do what we did every day. And I had no, I knew no difference. So, I mean, I loved it from day one.
Mm-hmm.
Still to this day, I'll be 55 this year, and that's my passion. That's what I do and what I love to do, and I've been blessed to be able to do and be able to teach and give back, and it's something that I love to do every day. Every day that I wake up, I'm blessed to do what I love to do.
You ready to hit the road?
Well, when I college rodeoed, and when I got out of college, I was going to come home, and I was going to open a gym and use part of my degree to do some stuff like that, because at that time, girls roping was something that you wasn't going to be able to make a living at. Mm-hmm. And my dad and mom took care of the ranch, so I was going to do something else until it was my turn to take care of the ranch. And all of that changed for some reason. I came home, and I took in a couple outside horses and started riding horses, and my brother had gone to the NFR, and like in my later years in college, and I thought, man, I would love to be able to do that. And at that time, it wasn't even possible, but I thought if I could train horses that went there, then it would be just as good. So I trained some calf horses that got to go to the NFR, and some team roping horses, and I just loved it and never quit it. I mean, I started training horses at home, and then rodeoing, and then Breakaway got to getting a little bigger, and team roping got really big, and I got to team roping a lot and going, to Vegas to the World Series finals. And I mean, then all of a sudden, Breakaway went to taking off a little bit, and it got to be reality that a woman could make a living with a rope. Mm-hmm. I think breakaway roping grew just like all other women's sports. I mean, people got to seeing women as athletes, and in pro rodeo, they only have one women's event, and bringing in another women's event and adding the value of having more women in rodeo, I think it just, once it started, I mean, it just started growing, and people looking at women differently and not just seeing them as housewives and girls that needed to take care of the kids and get a job and be at home. And they got to seeing them as women athletes, and that they were great hands with a horse and had great ability to rope. And I mean, when it took off, I mean, it took off. And I mean, it's just amazing to see how far that it has come and how much it has grown, and all the different people that gave us the stages to step up on and improve ourselves. Mm-hmm. I felt like at my age that I was a little bit past my prime, I guess you would say, but was still competitive. But I felt it was, my job to dang sure keep helping the younger generation to keep bringing their A game, to be promoting breakaway roping and be out there helping the younger generation doing clinics and, talking about it and how much value women could bring. Adding another women's event could bring to our industry.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, Chelsea Toy, come to me, and I think it was 2013, Chelsea came to me and asked me if she could hashtag one of my pictures, Rope Like a Girl, and I said, absolutely not. And I thought about it for a couple hours, and I called her, and I said, I think you can. Go ahead and do that. I said, but I want to meet you and talk to you about that. And we just started visiting about it and talking about it, and I thought, man, if I could make that cool, that would be great, to help women and young girls all over, to know that it wasn't a bad thing to rope like a girl. It could really be a cool thing to rope like a girl, especially if you were a badass girl, And I'm not saying I am, but I wanted all those little girls and women to think they were. So that's how it all started, and man, I'm glad that it did. Well, the personal interaction that I have with the young girls right now is they beat me quite a bit. They're hard to beat. I spent, the majority of my life helping young girls, and now the later part of my life, I spend it trying to beat them. It's just an honor when you show up somewhere and someone comes up to you, and it might be someone that I helped when they're 8 years old, and they'll come up to me when they're 20, and they'll say, hey, do you remember me? I was at this clinic at wherever, and I'm like, and I'm trying to think, and then they'll tell me their name, and I'll remember the name, but a lot has changed from the time they were 8 to 20. But it's pretty cool to know how many people that you've been able to bless and give, your craft to and help. And, you might get to a rodeo and look at the program, and 8 of the 10 girls entered have been to one of your clinics or something. It's just, it's like an honor that I was able to help in some way. All of that. Yeah, like what you try to bring to them at a clinic is, their basics they come to you for basics of roping, but you try to help them, with their mental game, and you try to help them with their basics, but, I catch myself mostly dealing with them as just individual people. You help them individually and help them with just life. You're talking to them about school and how they treat their parents and how they treat their horses and how they need to, go through life and become better human beings, and in doing that, you help them rope and, keep their basics where they always have something to go back to. Like I said, whether it's, them as an individual or it's their roping or, their mental game, you just teach them the basics and basics of life and roping as well. I would say one of the main things that helped me, besides my dad, I would say would be I was left-handed, and having to really learn the straight basics of how everything worked probably helped me tremendously, because then I always had something I could fall back on and go back to. And just the drive of not taking no for an answer. I was going to rope. I wanted to be the best, and I just strive every day to be the best. Work ethic. I wanted to work harder than anyone else, and like I said, my brother, having someone that I could raise the bar to. He was 3 years older, is 3 years older, and roped great. An NFR calf roper, and having someone that I could, that would set the bar that I could, keep striving to be as good as. Yes,
yeah.
and I mean, I think times has helped that tremendously. That when I was a kid, we roped, a handmade dummy, and we didn't have phones and videos. And I mean, later in life, we had big cameras that my mom would carry, and then we'd have VHS tapes and stuff like that. But like how things have evolved, and the tools that these younger generation have to get better has helped so much in the teaching and the mental capacity that people have. Like back then we just roped, and you just roped and went to the rodeo. But I mean, it evolved just with how the times have evolved, I feel like. I guess you have several of those, if you win, win the World Championship at something, or, you win an event, you're just, like wowed, I guess. But, one of the main things that stood out to me in my career is I was at the WPRA finals, and I happened to have vertigo at the time. And vertigo is not a good thing when you're trying to chase something and ride something that's, running and ducking and diving and stopping. But it was, I was coming in with a chance to win the breakaway and the team roping and the all-around, and I ended up with vertigo. But as it goes, I happened to win all three of them. But before I ran my calf, I was sitting there, and I got really dizzy, went to sweating, thought I was going to get sick, and I was like, man, I don't even know if I can run this thing, And as the story goes, all the lights went off in the arena, and it took like 10 or 15 minutes for them to come back on, and I kind of got my composure, and it was just, it's a God thing, but all the stars lined up. It gave me time to get my composure and rope my calf, and ended up winning the breakaway that year, the team roping and all around. So it was pretty cool story there.
When was that? Where was that?
I don't know the exact year. That was at Waco at the WPRA finals. Well, I'm a small piece of the puzzle, but I'm thankful to be a small piece. And, all the people that give us the platforms to prove ourselves on, and all of the things. But I'm not sure that I'll ever get to compete at the NFR with the rest of the contestants at my age. But I do feel that breakaway roping has come a long ways, and I feel that the younger generation will get that chance and that opportunity, and I'm going to be there watching. Well, at home, right? Yeah, I mean, I do a lot to stay busy now. I love to rope. That's my second. It kind of comes second now. But I try to rope every day, some way or another, whether I'm team roping or roping calves or riding a young horse or just riding a horse in the pasture. We work a lot. I work a lot more cattle now, like I did when I was younger. But I mean, I work on the ranch. I do all the business stuff for the ranch, and then I do also some cowboying around there and all that, and rope when I can, and go to some rodeos when I can, and go to some team ropings when I can. I stay pretty busy.